Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Charles Payne, and yes, this is Making Money. All right, so the market making a fresh all-time high. I think it's the 34th this year. And while there are surprises on Wall Street and consternation, listen, this has really been the trend. Since 2009, we have been on fire, buying a dip, whatever you want to call it. But it's also around that time where the U.S. stock market started to gobble up global market share. This is us versus the rest of the world, folks. And this year, of course, the markets outside of the U.S., they're outperforming. And Wall Street is cheering, well, you know, this is the end of American exceptionalism. Except, look at the fundamentals, right? American companies have these amazing earnings. And here's the good news, right? We're going to pull this up in a second. They are starting to improve, right? So these earnings surprises are getting better and better and better. And yes, I know a lot of folks are just kind of wringing their hands about the biggest stocks having these large market caps, Mag 7, 35% of the S&P 500. But here's the thing. There have never been companies like this in the history of humankind. These are earnings machines. Over here, the S&P 500, your top 10 stocks, look at this spike. They're going to keep earning a lot of money. The 493, not so much. So guess what? Stick with these grand slams. They're grand slams for a winner. There's no guesswork here. Meanwhile, it's been a mistake really trying to time the top, particularly for the Mag 7 stocks, right? But it's been an even bigger mistake if you've gone short this market. Take a look at this. The best performing stocks are the ones with the biggest short positions. And I believe I haven't shed one tear for the shorts, right? Because they've had it their way so many times. So they've gotten crushed in October. Now, here's one thing. We're going to make mistakes, right? But the key is make sure that you just learn from these mistakes, right? Back in January 17th, 2024, I made a mistake, I think, right? I laughed at my next guest. She said gold was going to go to $4,000 an ounce. Well, looks like maybe she got the last laugh. I hear her laughing now. Let's bring in Walser Wealth Management President Rebecca Walser. All right, so first and foremost, congratulations.
Thank you. I'll take it.
Remind the audience why you were so confident back then that gold was going to go much higher.
I mean, at a really high level, we're in a global macroeconomic transition. Charles, we're moving away from fiat currency. The world is moving to the east, the BRICS bloc, and all of that global macroeconomic activity is making a move for hard assets. We also have Basel III that made a lot of central banks buy a bunch of gold. So there's just a lot of moving parts. And people, you saw when we had the liquidation in the route in cryptocurrencies on October 10th of this month, that people, leave and move to gold, look to gold. When China threatened to be protections about rare earth, when Trump announced tariffs, what happened? Gold went parabolic. So I'm not saying that I agree with that, but obviously It's retrenched back. But it is here to stay. It's going to help us have a hard asset, true restore value during this economic transition.
But what does it mean, for instance, for the dollar?
That is an hour-long or plus conversation. I mean, the dollar obviously is not going away anytime soon, but we are transitioning from fiat currency to, we're going to stable coins. We're going to cryptocurrency. We're going to the blockchain.
So some are saying that maybe it's moved too fast, too soon. I'm not sure 4,000, that was your target, but I'm not sure if it was this going to happen this soon, right?
Yeah.
So having said that, Jerry and Timmer put out this piece. I love him. He's one of my favorites out there. And essentially what he's saying is, if you think of gold as a reflection of fiscal dominance, all the money printing out there, gold and crypto as a percentage of M2 is now at 133%. Yep. The other times it was this high, 123%, 140%. This is your move in gold. Gold went sideways to lower, sideways to lower. In other words, that was the peak.
Yep.
You don't think that's the case this time?
No, because this time, and I know people want to say not this time, but this time we really are in the middle of a global macroeconomic transition to the blockchain. And that means people are going to look for a hard asset store of value that cannot be manipulated by the government. So that is why it's a little bit different.
So the blockchain is a positive story for gold?
Well, it's a positive story in the sense that we are making a transition, and during a transition, you need a real store of value that cannot be manipulated. Yes. All
right, let's talk about some opportunities in the stock market. You like ConocoPhillips here.
Yeah.
Stock's been sort of sideways. Gold, of course, oil hasn't done that much.
Yep.
So does this also mean that you think oil has found a bottom?
Well, it's more that ConocoPhillips specifically, so obviously with the Russian sanctions that obviously Bessent and Trump announced this week, we obviously saw the price jump back up. But if we are coming into an era of, and I'm not saying that we are yet, but if we are entering a slowdown of global demand, then ConocoPhillips is one of the best positioned because they have such a low price point. They're less than $40 production per barrel, so they can withstand depressed prices. And, average analyst targets are 30% to the upside. So I think it's a good dividend payer, 3.59%. 49%. 42% goes to payouts, so we're really happy with that.
And you like, so obviously the risk reward too, you like that.
Yes,
it
absolutely.
Seems like it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Duolingo, right? So two things. I want to know, what they do, but also I started hearing about this name early this year. This was a hot stock.
Yeah.
Everyone, get Duolingo, buy Duolingo. And it made a huge move. It came down. Bam. So what's going on with this?
Yeah, well, it's 40% off of its all-time high, so we like it. It's cheap right now. It's 6%. Analysts think it's got 26% moved to the upside, and so we like it for it's cheap. It's, it's a language model, learning a language. I think eventually in the future there won't be a need for it. I mean, people will still want to learn language, but AI is going to be able to instantly translate to the person you're speaking to in their language. So eventually,
between now and that transition,
you might not need to learn a language unless you want to, which is really good to do.
I'm still working on English. Here's an interesting thing. You've got a cell.
Yes.
You say Novartis.
Yes.
I mean, it's a beautiful chart. It's done extraordinarily well.
Exactly.
Why is that going to change?
Take some profits. Two of their main big drugs are coming off of patent this year, going generic, and so it's pretty much 9%. Analysts agree it's about 9% overpriced right now, based on their drug portfolio. Right. So that's kind of why we're thinking that. Huh?
Ring the register.
Ring the register.
Right, great stuff. Congratulations again on
Thank you.
By the way, see you later with the panel.
Yes.
All right, folks. All right, I want to bring in now New York Post columnist Ricky Schlott, along with Walser Wealth Management President Rebecca Walser. Okay, maybe it smacks of eugenics or something like that, but Ricky, the point is that, you see it with Japan, that not only are these wealthy nations not having kids, but the people who have access to the best education are, and the ones who don't. And that means that the entire nation gets sort of dumbed down, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the wealthier you are, the more pressure there is to spend for an exorbitant private school tuition. And it gets more expensive to have a kid and to raise them in the socially acceptable way in your milieu. So I think that's part of the issue. But certainly the trend worldwide is the more educated you become, the less likely you are to replace in terms of fertility, which is 2.1 children per woman on average.
Right, and China is really bad in the rich towns and rich cities, but that's why they lead the world in industrial robots. And I guess that's the path they're going to take. But do we want to take that path?
I mean, if we have AI outsource all jobs, I guess we don't need to be, we only need 1% of the population to run the machines. But obviously, to self-sustain in the economic models that we've had, Charles, this is not working. I mean, I just read in the UN study that 1/3 of all Australian women are not having kids at all. So they're not even at the replacement rate. They're not even having one child. So it's just
but
what
Rebecca,
is happening?
You're extraordinarily successful, and you have children. You have 4 kids.
Yes.
So if you would have waited until you were financially secure, you couldn't have done that.
No. And that's what happens. A lot of people wait until they're successful in their career, and then they have fertility problems because they're trying to have kids in their mid to late 30s, and that's very difficult,
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, if it wasn't for my daughter, I had my daughter when I was like 22 years old. I had zero. Got out of the Air Force. I'd saved up $1,000. I wouldn't be where I am today. Having a child made me successful, not the other way around, because I had to do it for her.
Yeah.
And but on that same topic, and again with Japan rather being the epicenter of this, they have a new prime minister, and essentially she's like, listen, we're getting rid of all those skilled workers. We're not going to let them in this country. We're going to get rid of them. And so that brings up a whole different dynamics, Ricky, because you brought up immigration, but there's other parts, right? That when you have open borders, you're not just bringing in people who can work, but you also bring in people who may not work, people who have low skills. They become a burden. They can become a burden in society. So how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a difference between having open borders and having a selective process to bring in highly skilled workers. And a country like Japan is a country, in my opinion, that should be considering that, because they have massive holes in their economy. And if you don't have enough young people to generate new ideas and to fill the jobs and also to care for the elderly people that are suffering alone, there's an entire industry in Japan of people who go and clean out old people who've passed away alone with no relatives apartments. That's a burgeoning industry with thousands of companies doing that.
What about a baby boom?
The thing is, every policy that they've tried to do to incentivize that, whether it's like a bonus or changing childcare, it seems as though that's not something that you can force upon people. It has to happen organically.
You couldn't even incentivize them monetarily, I guess. I mean, we've seen that.
There's always a little bit of a bump, but it seems like you're pulling ahead the children that people would have had ultimately, and then it just kind of goes back to the rates of decline. So it's hard to figure out how to do that unless it's organic. And I do think there's a little bit of like a recent revival of pronatalism and an interest in among young people and having kids.
I think it's happening in America. I know it's happening with conservatives. I know for a fact it's happening with conservatives. And now we can just get the liberals to join in. Like, don't worry about who's president right now, okay? Have some damn kids. All right, now, speaking of kids, though, we got this big gambling scandal. And, there's there have been so many studies on this in the last year, the impact on young men. The parlay especially. I mean, they're losing their shirt, all right? And this betting culture. I read a part of this yesterday, speaking with the CIO of Robinhood. I'm going to read it for you all, too. And this is from When Money Dies by Andrew Ferguson. As the old virtues of thrift, honesty, and hard work lose their appeal, everybody was out to get rich quickly, especially as speculation in currency and shares could probably yield far greater rewards than labor. It sounds like almost like where some people think we are now, Rebecca. And this, by the way, was led to the rise of Hitler.
I think the saddest part of this whole NBA gambling, FBI mafia story that is so high tech with the poker and everything, and also the NBA coaches and players, is people, the average American is saying, I don't understand. These people are already at the top of their craft, at the top of the income. Pigs get fat. Hogs get slaughtered. And I don't think the average American can understand why do you need to cheat when you're already at the top of your game. And I also think it sends a message. Geez, you can make it and you can still, want even more. It's the greed and the get rich quick. And it's such a shame. And we have to do something to reinstill all of those things that you just mentioned. Hard work, ethics, morals. It's just our society's decaying. And what else can I say?
Think folks in your age bracket, particularly young men, are saying that the jobs aren't there. Or the opportunities aren't there because they have taken to this like it's amazing. And there's talk about, just being professional gamblers, betting on every single thing in these prediction markets. Yeah. What do you feel about this?
I mean, I think it's less a sense that the jobs aren't there and more a sense of entitlement that I don't even need the jobs. Like I see someone on TikTok who's done this and I can do it too because I'm just as good as them.
It seems easy.
It seems easy. Like it seems these influencers make it seem quite possible. And they're incentivized to, and they're probably making commissions on whatever kids they get hooked on various apps and betting platforms. I mean, I just did an article talking to teens who have gotten hooked with gambling, and it starts with $2, $3 bets, and then all of a sudden you get your first paycheck, and you already have that kind of like dopamine hit wired into your brain.
Did you meet any who were able to stop?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Several, and that was mostly because their parents started to realize, I'm getting a lot of notifications from DraftKings. Someone's logging into my account right now.
Wow.
But very few, and a lot of them had to hit rock bottom in thehave 20s after years already.
Wow.
Ricky, Rebecca,
easy.
Two R's, dressed the same way. You guys must have called each other.
We called.
Great stuff. Appreciate you. Thank you. All right.